Hi guys, I'm Ben, the Spotlight Kid, and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got something a little different. I've got the first interview for the channel with Vince Wilquin from Fractal Universe, and we go through, talking a little bit about the new album, The Impossible Horizon, which is a fantastic album. If you haven't heard it yet, go and check it out. Go check out my review that I did on this channel as well. And some of his personal history with music and stuff like that, but I won't give it all away, so stay tuned and enjoy. Okay, so Vince, thanks for joining me to talk about all things Fractal Universe. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. I've been listening to the new album sort of relentlessly, and at this stage, it's probably my album of the year. So it's great to talk to you a little bit about it. Do you mind if I ask you some questions about sort of your sort of personal history with music and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure.
So I was interested to ask you sort of, when did you first sort of discover a love for music? You know, that sort of was it from your parents, or did you discover it along the way somehow? When did you first realize you love music?
Yeah, I think my parents had a huge part in it because they were listening to a lot of rock music, also world music, and stuff like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Frank Zappa, stuff like that was basically spinning in my house all the time. So I think
That's awesome.
I always pictured myself as a musician somehow, but I started only at the age of 9 playing the guitar and really got into it only at the age of 12, because in the beginning I didn't really realize that it was hard work,
Right. Yes, absolutely. That's really cool. Your parents had great taste in music, by the sound of things. Did I lose you for a second there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying that's really cool. Your parents had great taste in music, by the sound of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
My mom is still supporting me a lot today, coming to shows and stuff like that. So it's
that's awesome, man. So like, at what point did you discover metal and realize that sort of that was the path you wanted to go down?
Well, actually, regarding metal, I came to it quite naturally. I think I was first introduced to it by my first guitar teacher, and he introduced me, I think, to bands like Metallica, Infectious Grooves, and I immediately liked it. And basically, this was kind of when I really got into practicing music, because now I had a goal. I want songs and stuff like that. And so that's how I came into it. And later I went from this approach bands like Metallica, Slayer, to more death metal stuff. I discovered the band Death, and then Cynic, and all of the bands from that genre, and that changed me forever, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned Infectious Grooves. They were also a big influence on me back in the day as well, as I was a bass player. So yeah, cool, man. So as you said, you started playing guitar when you were 9 years old, right?
Yeah.
And how did that happen? Was it just did your father or parents play or something like that?
Well, my mother played and is still playing a little bit of guitar, but only like some chords here and there. And my father was playing a lot of percussions.
Do you have a jam with them at all?
No, not really. No, she's like really a beginner and stuff like that. But my father was really into like African percussions and stuff like that. So he was playing a lot of these all the time.
That's
And
cool.
that's how I wanted, I think, to start a music instrument. And actually, I started guitars and drums roughly at the same time.
All
And
right.
I stick with guitar later on, basically.
Are you still playing drums?
No, not really, but it's really useful because now I can write basically the drum parts for the band and stuff like that. So it's really helped that I have knowledge of drums and stuff like that,
Yeah,
but I don't have the
absolutely.
time to play it anymore.
So yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of sort of rhythmic complexity in the band, you know, in the bands in Fractal Universe's music. So you have a large hand in that in the writing process.
Yeah, basically, I'm writing all the music.
Mm-hmm.
How it works is I work on Guitar Pro, writing all the stuff down, and then record some rough pre-productions, which I send over to the guys, and then we fine tune everything together. But like I write down the basic drum and bass lines as well. So then it's mostly like fine tuning, as I said, in rehearsal and stuff like that. But yeah, it really helps that I have a background learning some drums and stuff like to write
Sure.
coherent parts. And I think it's always a huge part of my composition process, the drums and also the bass. So yeah, it helps.
Yeah, I mean, for this kind of music in particular, it makes such a huge difference. You know, I think it's what sets certain bands apart in this genre is when you hear more rhythmic complexity. You know, a lot of the times, you know, in technical death metal, it's like just a lot of sort of straight ahead blasting. But you guys
Yeah.
really have, you know, some diversity there, which makes the music much more interesting and enjoyable, in my opinion, anyway. I noticed that you guys seem to have like a pretty stable lineup, which is also kind of like rare in this genre of music. Is that is that due to you guys being like long-term friends or just having a great chemistry, or, you know?
Yeah, basically we have the same lineup since the beginning of the band, and that's
Right.
because yeah, we are really good friends as well, and have a great chemistry, as you said, and we don't want to change that actually. So we are the same team. We work for the same goals. Everybody is really motivated, and yeah, most importantly, we have a great time together whenever we are rehearsing, whenever we are on tour together. So I think that's what keeps us together.
Yeah, it makes all the difference for sure when you're friends with the guys. So you know, this year sees you guys releasing your third full-length album, The Impossible Horizon. So can you tell me a little bit about, you know, the genesis of this album, from a musical perspective? What was the sort of inspiration?
Well, it's hard to sum up the inspiration on the record. Sometimes I don't really know what I draw inspiration from. I listen to a lot of different styles of music, like a lot of metal, progressive metal, stuff like that, but also like a lot of fusion and jazz music, which I also play.
Yeah,
And
I can
so I
hear
think
that.
it's a
You can hear
blend
that.
of all of that, actually. So it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to point out certain bands in particular or stuff like that. It's I'm trying to write music that I hear in my head, basically, and that doesn't mean that I have to follow certain guidelines and rules and stuff like that. And so the record started out, I think, right after we finished recording Rhythms of Insanity already. I was gathering a few ideas, and the first songs came together around that time. And it was a
Mm.
steady process, I think, that lasted like 1 year and a half until we started recording the whole record.
And you know, like you, well, as far as I know, you partnered up with Arthur Masod to help write the lyrics, right? For
Yeah,
this album.
exactly.
And he's a doctor of psychology, right?
Yeah, correct. And
So
actually,
like, yeah.
he's been working on the lyrics with us since the beginning of the band, basically.
Oh, okay. I
And
didn't realize.
yeah, yeah. And he's great. I really love his style of writing, and his knowledge in the field is obviously huge. And so he always brings such cool concepts to the table.
Right.
And yeah, we have a great chemistry together as well. He has been a friend of mine since high school. We also were roommates at some point, so we had a lot of talks about that kind of topics in the past. So yeah,
Philosophical subjects and stuff like that.
yeah.
So, you know, do you want to maybe explain just a little bit, you know, overall, like some of the concepts on this album, like lyrically for those who might not know?
Yeah, so the whole record is basically a concept record about the idea of death and what it means to us as human beings. Like I told, I think I've heard you say that in the review as well.
Sure, yeah.
And yeah, basically what it's about is, what does it mean for us to be mortal, and how do we cope with that idea, basically, and what ways do we find around that? There are unconscious ways, obviously, but also conscious ways. Like humans have found comfort in things like spirituality, like art, like stuff like that. All that basically gives our lives meanings, despite the fact that at one point they will end. And these are really fascinating subjects, and we try to explore all of these facets in the different songs.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic, yeah. It's one of the things I love about this genre of music, is that it's, you know, it's sort of an avenue for exploring deeper concepts than just ooh baby, ooh baby.
Yeah, we try to have the lyrics and vocals to really match the quality and the effort we put in the music. So
yeah, actually, you know, I have to say, like, you know, you guys have always been pretty complex, but this album sort of, it feels much more effortless, I guess, in its, like, it's as equally complex, maybe even more so than other stuff that you've done, but it feels like you've sort of hit your groove, you know, you found the sweet spot. Does it feel like that for you, or does it just sort of feel like a natural continuation?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's always the goal we have, like making intricate music that doesn't really have to feel intricate. I mean, the idea is not to make it feel technical or whatever. It's just to use your tools that you have, like being able to play well on your instruments, to write good songs, and to get new ideas that maybe you wouldn't have if you were like a less experienced musician. So I think it's always just a matter of using your knowledge well in order to craft good music.
Absolutely. And, you know, you can, I think, like, you can really feel the emotional impact on this album. It really comes through in a very genuine way. So congratulations on that. Also, I have to say, like, the production feels like it's also sort of matured along with the compositions. You know, can you tell us a little bit about the production side of things for this album?
Yeah, we've been working with the same mixing and producer since the beginning of the band. He's called Flavien Morel, and now he works in the Boundless Production Studios, which is basically alongside our drummer Clément. So basically, it's the first time with this record that we've been doing everything in our own studios. I mentioned Boundless Productions. This is where we track the drums. And regarding all the other instruments, that happened at our homes, basically, and was then reamped and stuff like that. And I think it gave us a lot of able to do everything by ourselves, because we could take as much time as we needed. And I think that makes a huge difference. For example, we could take a bunch of days just to try out different cymbals for the drums and find the ones that suited the music and the mix best. And you cannot do that if you rent your studio like $500 a day or something like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's what makes the big difference, I think, alongside working with the same guy, Flavien, who gets to know the band really well and understands music and what we want. And like with the lineup, I think we value working with the same people, again, building a relationship over.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear it. You can hear the sort of you can hear the experience there, you know, and it really comes through as it's that sort of unstated confidence in the sound. Yeah, I think everything really works beautifully on this album. So he did a great job. So also, like, I'm interested to know like a little bit more about your influences in the past, and also like what you're into these days. You know, are you someone who's sort of like following what's coming out every year and sort of staying in touch with that, or are you sort of more sticking to the old stuff? Like, what are some of your favorite bands and influences from the past? Like what got you into it, and then like stuff that from now, you know?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I still enjoy listening to records that I loved in my teenage years and stuff like that, but also have a look at what comes out recently.
Hmm.
Speaking of my older influences, I mentioned them earlier. I think bands like Death, Cynic, Phagist had a huge impact on me, I think.
Sure.
And I still listen to that records on a regular basis.
Yeah,
But
they're pretty timeless, those records.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I'm also more into the prog metal and more in general, bands like Caligula's Horse or Tesseract, bands like that.
Okay.
I'm really into as
Interesting.
well.
Have
And
you heard?
also
Yeah.
like fusion and jazz records, artists such as Tigran Hamasyan, the Armenian pianist, who is really great and also has a really metal approach, I think, in his music. So that's someone who definitely influences me as well. And guys like Herbie Hancock and stuff like that as well.
It's hard to beat Herbie. Yeah, I've noticed that like in a lot of the sort of modern fusion that's coming out, there is quite a lot of aggression. There's quite a lot of, I wouldn't say metal necessarily, but there's a lot of attack. It feels like rhythmically there seems to be that seems to be quite a prominent thing with a lot of the new fusion stuff that's coming out. Um, but cool, man. And so can you tell me, like, have you had any sort of crazy experiences or interesting stuff happen to you, like on tour or gigs or stuff like that?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, you got any crazy
One of
stories you want
our
to share?
biggest experiences was like our tour with Obscura right before the pandemic. That was our first tour in a nightliner. We were there with the four bands, so it was like 23 people in the bus, which was kind of crazy. It went on for 3 weeks,
Oh,
and yeah, it
wow.
was amazing because Obscura was one of my favorite bands in my teenage years and still today, and it was
Yeah,
kind of a dream come true to tour with the guys.
I bet.
And
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much cool stuff that happened during that tour, and yeah, I kind of miss it. Regarding other cool experiences that we had, one that was at the same time the best and one of the worst experiences on stage was Metal Days in Slovenia. It was the best because we had a huge crowd. It was an amazing show, but from a technical point of view, everything that could go wrong went wrong actually because we had like 10 minutes of changeover and sound check to get everything ready, and so we started. It was a total disaster because the only audience only could hear like drums and bass. They had
No.
muted the guitars for some reason, and we use in-ear monitors, which I don't know what happened, but everything was reversed. I was hearing only the bass, and the bass player was
Oh,
hearing only the guitar. And so
damn.
this is what happens when you have only 10 minutes. And yeah, the poor festival crew was totally overwhelmed, and they did as well as they could. But yeah, that was hard.
Yeah, I mean, these things sort of come with the territory, don't they? I mean, I did like an album launch for one of my old bands years ago, and everything had always worked perfectly on stage for us, except on the album launch, everything died.
Oh.
So yeah, so I know the feeling, but it comes with the territory, I guess. So like with the live stuff, tell me, is there sort of much of a scene for you guys over there in France? With this sort of music, with progressive and technical death metal. I mean, as I mentioned in my review, there's obviously Gojira is huge, but like one of my favorites from France is Gorod. Um, is there much of a scene for you guys over there, or is it sort of pretty small?
Actually, I don't think there is really a big scene in that particular genre. Actually, Gorod are from the absolute opposite part of France, though they're like 1,000 kilometers away. So I
Right.
cannot say
So
we
it's like
are
another.
part of the same scene, but I absolutely love
Right.
the band as well.
Yeah,
But
great band.
I think
Great
the
band.
metal scene in France is great overall. You mentioned Gojira, Gorod. There's also bands like Tripalium that I really love,
Right.
Hypnose or Cardinia.
Hmm.
There's a lot of talent there, but as far as progressive death metal goes, there's not so much that I'm aware of. But what's good for us is that we live close to the German and Belgian and Luxembourg borders, so that means we can play there fairly easily and have played there quite early in our career.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
that's a huge advantage for us to be placed in that particular place of France.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you mentioned Obscura before. What have you heard the new album? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I just listened to it today actually. I think
Yeah.
it's really good. I can really feel the touch of Christian Münzner being back there, and it feels cool.
Yeah, I mean, Christian
I
is
definitely loved.
Christian's a special guitarist. I mean, he really he's. I made a list of my favorite guitarists, and he was one of them because he's something else.
Yeah, actually, fun fact is that I took some Skype guitar lessons with him back in the day,
Yeah, cool.
and he's a super nice guy, and it was great. I think I learned a lot from it, especially like not only on the technical side, but also like in terms of theory. He was the first one who made me really fall in love with the harmony with the theoretical side of things, and made me understand that basically learning rules makes you realize that there are no rules actually, and that you can apply this knowledge and then deviate from it. And I think I learned a lot from this guy.
Yeah, I think like Victor Wooten, the bass player, is always saying you're only like one fret away from the right note or something. So. But that's cool, man.
Yeah, coming back just to the Obscura record, I think what I love about the band is whatever lineup they have, they manage to put out something new, and something refreshing. I mean, I totally loved Diluvium, where you have a lot of
that was amazing
of the lineup's influence on this, and now with the new lineup, it's like totally different stuff, but I think it works totally well, and it's great to
I mean,
every record.
You can sort of hear they're throwing in like little references to classic stuff, like some Slayer, some there's like a part where there's like a Megadeth riff in there, or like it's sort of like inspired by those riffs maybe. Actually, like in the first I don't know if you've heard the first Fragment album. There's a part in one of those songs that's like totally theory and practice. I don't know if you know that band, but yeah, it's cool. I like when bands do little references like that. It works really well. I also wanted to ask you about something that's popped up recently in your music is the saxophone. You just started playing like in recent years, or is this something that you've always had in your arsenal and just decided to bring it out now, or what's the deal? What's the deal there with the saxophone?
No, actually, I started just like 2 years ago. It was something I had on the back of my head for quite some time, but I didn't have I was living in an apartment before, so I didn't have a place where I was confident with doing really loud music.
Yeah.
And now that I have my own home with my own like recording booth and stuff like that, I really figured, let's start it. And I'm having so much fun in the instrument. And
and man, it's really impressive, like how good you've gotten at it in that short space of time. I actually started on clarinet, so I'm pretty familiar with wind instruments, and it's not easy. Like some of those runs that you're pulling off on the record are pretty impressive, man. So
thanks.
No worries.
There's still a long way to go, but I'm having a lot of fun on it, and I think if you're already confident with music and with a musical instrument, it goes much faster to learn a new one. It's mostly the technique that you have to learn, and not really all the mindset.
Yeah, you already have the theory behind it, you know. Yeah. So what was what was the thought process behind adding it to the band? It was something you always wanted to do, or?
Well, actually, we did it on the previous records. We had some guests playing on it. And I think the idea for that, for the first record, we wanted to have a guest spot on the record, to have a guest guitar solo maybe. And then we thought, maybe why not have something different than guitar? And we asked Jorgen Munkeby from the band Shining.
Right.
He did such an amazing job that we absolutely loved it. And from that point on, we figured that just saxophone was a really great fit for our music.
It is.
And we had some guests as well on the second record. Actually, Hugo's father played on it.
Oh, cool.
Rhythms of Insanity. And so when I started playing it, I think it was quite natural for me to try and add it on the record.
Yeah, and it fits.
I was really not very confident with it. Like I was still a beginner and stuff like that. But since I had a lot of fun and practiced a lot, I figured, yeah, let's try.
Yeah. No, it's great. I think it really adds another color to the whole thing. It's great. So, you know, like this is your third full length album, and you know, you guys have come a long way since the Boundaries of Reality EP, which is also great. All your albums are great, but in my opinion, they've sort of got progressively better. Is how do you see the band's progress? Are you happy with the direction that it's going in? And do you feel like that it's progressively getting better?
Yeah, I think we are all maturing as performers, as composers, as the band basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more and more we find our own personality. And but that being said, I think I'm still happy with the previous records.
They're great.
Obviously,
Yeah.
there are things I would do differently, but I like the way they are, and they should stand like that. And I still enjoy playing the older songs.
Yeah, it's not like they're like amateurish or anything like that. From the very beginning, it sounded great. But I think you can sort of, there's like a maturity that comes through as you move through the albums. So also, you know, you've got 2 video clips, right, for the album. You've got Clockwork Expectation and Symmetrical Masquerade.
Yeah, there's also a third one for Interfering Spherical Scenes.
Oh, right. Okay.
That was released later, actually, on the album release day.
Okay, I haven't seen that one. That's cool. Yeah. So, but actually, one of my favorite things to see is the playthrough that you guys did of Withering Snowdrops on the rail bridge. That was actually really cool. I got to say, like when I was watching that, and then I see you doing the saxophone solo as you're walking along the bridge, I was, as someone who broke his leg falling down some steps last year, I was very worried for you. Walking along those tracks too, you were going to fall and hurt yourself. But that's a great idea, actually, doing it like that out in nature. And where was that? Where did you film that?
Actually, it is in in the town I grew up in.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a disused railroad, so you can basically be there without any danger. And it's a very cool bridge, actually. I love it. And you can also climb down to the bottom of the bridge and see the whole structure and stuff like that. And you see, I think the guitar solo from that playthrough was shot like in the underneath the bridge, like in that whole metal structure, which is like really impressive.
Yeah.
And speaking of the saxophone while walking, that was quite tricky. We had to practice it for quite some time.
It looked tricky.
Some little fails. I think I don't know if you have checked the very last seconds.
Yeah, there was
where you see me fail.
Yeah, that was funny, man. I like that. I like that you left that in there. That was good. So finally, I just want to ask you, do you have, like, besides Fractal Universe, do you have any other projects that you're involved in, or do you have any sort of like a bucket list of people that you would love to work with, in the future?
Well, regarding other projects, I have another band called Scarred, which is basically, how do you call that? Groove death metal from Luxembourg, actually.
Okay.
And I actually wear the T-shirt here.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
They released their new record called Scarred. So it's a self-titled record at the beginning of this year, and we are playing some shows
cool.
next year as well. So this is cool. And
are you also singing in that one, or just guitar?
No. I'm just playing guitar and doing some backing vocals, and I'm also not really involved in the composition and stuff like that. I only write some leads here and there and contribute to the arrangements. But
cool. Have to check it out for sure.
And besides that, I'm starting a new project with friends of mine, like a fusion jazz project.
Awesome!
Which is going to be recording its first record next month, actually. So watch out for that. Have
you got a title, like a name for that band, or not yet?
It's not nothing announced yet. So
yeah, that sounds great, man. I'm always up for some new fusion. Anyway, brother, that's pretty much all I've got for today. But I just really want to say thanks again for coming on and talking to me. It's a real pleasure to meet you. And hopefully I'm going to try and aim to get over to Europe for your tour next year, if I can. And we'll have a beer.
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome, brother. So thanks again, and we'll catch you later.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and cheers. Hope to see you around next year, maybe.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right, brother. Catch you later.